You make more money than your parents did at your age. You have a better job title, better education, more skills. And somehow you're not doing better. You're doing the same, maybe worse. You're not building wealth. You're not getting ahead. You're just keeping up, barely. And the math doesn't make sense until you realize the math was never supposed to make sense. It was supposed to keep you exactly where you are. There's a reason you feel like you're running full speed and standing still. There's a reason every raise gets absorbed before you notice it. There's a reason your parents bought a house at 28 and you're still renting at 35. The reason isn't the economy, isn't inflation, isn't avocado toast. The reason is design. And in the next 11 minutes, I'm going to show you the blueprint, who drew it, and the one flaw they accidentally left in. Your life has been divided into capture zones, each one calibrated to extract a specific percentage of your income. And when you add them up, they leave you with just enough to feel okay, but never enough to escape. This isn't accident, this is architecture. The first capture zone is housing. The 30% rule says you should spend about a third of your income on rent or mortgage. Financial advisors repeat it like scripture. Landlords use it to justify rent increases. Mortgage brokers use it to calculate what you can afford. It sounds reasonable, sounds like guidance. It's not guidance, it's a target. The 30% rule wasn't created to help you budget. It was created by the National Housing Act of 1934 as a lending standard. It told banks how much debt they could safely load onto borrowers. The number wasn't based on human flourishing. It was based on default risk. How much could they extract before you broke? 90 years later, the same percentage runs your life. Landlords know you'll pay up to 30% before you leave, so they price at 30%. Mortgage. Lenders know you'll stretch to 30% to buy, so they qualify you at 30%. The number isn't what you should spend, it's what they know they can take. And here's what 30% used to buy versus what it buys now. In 1980, 30% of median income got you a median home. Same ratio, same percentage, different outcome. Today, 30% of median income gets you a median apartment in most cities. Not a home, not equity, rent. You're paying the same relative amount and receiving less. The percentage held while the value collapsed. But housing was just the first capture zone. Once they had your shelter locked, they needed your mobility. The second capture zone is transportation. Average new car payment in 2024 is $738 per month, according to Experian. Add insurance at $190 average, add gas at $150 for a typical commute, you're looking at roughly $1,000 monthly on median household income of $74,000. That's 16% of gross income, 20% of take-home. The car you need to get to the job that pays for the car that gets you to the job. And you need the car because the housing you can afford is far from the jobs that pay enough to afford the housing. This isn't coincidence. Suburban sprawl was designed by automakers and oil companies and highway contractors who lobbied for infrastructure that made car ownership mandatory. They didn't build a world where you happen to need a car. They built a world where you can't survive without one. 2 capture zones down. Housing took 30%, transportation took 20%, 50% of your income is gone, and you haven't eaten yet. But the capture system wasn't finished. They needed to lock the rest. The third capture zone is necessities. Groceries for a family average $700 monthly, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, healthcare premiums. Plus out-of-pocket costs average $450 for those with employer coverage, utilities including electric, gas, water, trash, average $300, phone and internet average $150, because good luck existing in modern economy without connectivity. Add those up, $1,700 monthly, another 23% of take-home income. Housing 30%, transportation 20%, necessities 23%. You're at 73% of income spent on things you cannot eliminate, cannot negotiate, cannot reduce without real consequences. The remaining 27% is supposed to cover everything else: clothing, household items, any emergency that arises, any debt you're servicing, any life you're trying to live, any savings you're trying to build. But here's what makes the design so elegant. That remaining 27% is exactly enough to feel like you have choices. You can eat at a restaurant occasionally. You can buy new clothes sometimes. You can take a small vacation once a year. You have just enough slack to feel like you're not poor. But you don't have enough to accumulate. You don't have enough to miss a paycheck. You don't have enough to quit the job you hate. You don't have enough to start something of your own. The slack is for comfort, not for freedom. And that distinction is the entire point. If they took 90%, you'd revolt, you'd organize, you'd demand change. If they took 60%, you'd have enough margin to build alternatives, to save enough to walk away, to create options they can't control. 73% is the perfect extraction rate, maximum capture without triggering rebellion. And this number isn't static, it adjusts with you. When you get a raise, housing costs rise. When housing costs rise, everything built on housing rises. The grocery store in the nicer neighborhood charges more. The insurance in the better zip code costs more. The lifestyle around the upgraded address inflates to match. Your raise doesn't create margin, it just moves you to a higher loop of the same trap. This is why the person making $50,000 and the person making $150,000 often report similar feelings of financial stress. The percentages hold across income levels. The capture zones scale: 50,000 or 500,000. The system takes what it's calibrated to take and leaves what it's calibrated to leave. So who benefits from you being stretched exactly this thin? Landlords benefit. They capture maximum rent you can bear, any more, and you'd leave any less, and they're leaving money on the table. Lenders benefit. Your car loan and credit cards fill the gaps when necessities spike. They profit from the margin you don't have. Employers benefit. Workers with no financial cushion don't negotiate hard, don't quit without notice, don't take risks, don't organize. Financial precarity creates workplace compliance. The entire consumer economy benefits. Your 27% slack doesn't sit in savings. It circulates through restaurants and streaming services and retail therapy. The economy needs you spending, not accumulating. Your consumption is their revenue. You are not failing at personal finance. You are succeeding at being captured. The system is working exactly as designed, extracting maximum value while providing minimum stability. But here's what they didn't account for. The design has a flaw, and the flaw is the gap. The gap is the difference between what you earn and what you spend. The capture zones target percentages of income, but they can't capture what they don't know you have. If you earn $70,000 but spend like you earn $50,000, the capture zones calibrated to $70,000 miss $20,000. That $20,000 is invisible to the system. It doesn't inflate lifestyle, doesn't get absorbed by upgraded housing, doesn't get eaten by nicer car. It escapes. The design assumes you'll spend to your income. That lifestyle inflation is automatic, that every raise becomes new obligation. The flaw is that the assumption requires your participation, and participation is optional. Here's how you exploit the flaw. If you're fully captured right now, 70+% going to housing transportation necessities, your first move isn't cutting necessities, it's attacking housing. Housing is the anchor that sets the level for everything else. Cheaper housing means cheaper neighborhood, means cheaper groceries, means cheaper everything. One move cascades. This might mean roommates, might mean relocation, might mean smaller space. These aren't failures. These are strategic retreats from a capture zone designed to own you. If you're partially captured, 50 to 70% to the big three, your move is freezing lifestyle. Next raise goes entirely to Gap, not $1 to upgrade. You're playing dead to the capture system, letting them think you're at maximum extraction while you're secretly accumulating. If you're barely captured, under 50%, your move is acceleration. Every dollar of Gap goes to assets that produce income. You're not just escaping the capture zone, you're building counter-infrastructure. Income that doesn't come from trading time for money. The design works when you spend at your income level. It breaks when you spend beneath it. The gap is the escape hatch they can't close because they can't see it. Most people never find the gap because they don't know they're in a capture system. They think they're just living life, making choices, buying what they want. They don't realize every choice is constrained by architecture designed to absorb every dollar they earn. Now, you know. The feeling that you're running in place isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. You sensed the design before you saw it. The treadmill is real. The capture zones are real. The calibration that leaves you stretched, but not broken, is real. But the flaw is also real. The gap exists. The escape exists. The design isn't destiny, it's just the default. And defaults can be changed by anyone who sees them for what they are. Your choice now isn't between comfort and deprivation. It's between visible spending that feeds the capture system and invisible accumulation that escapes it. Same money, radically different destination. Every month you widen the gap is a month you're building outside the architecture they designed. Every dollar that doesn't flow to housing or transportation or consumption is a dollar they can't extract. Every year you play beneath your income level is a year you're dismantling their blueprint one brick at a time. The modern life that's designed to be just affordable is designed for people who don't see the design. You see it now. What you do next is the only thing they can't predict. If this explained the exhaustion, you couldn't name hit subscribe. Financial triage exists too. Expose the systems extracting your income and show you exactly how to stop them. Next video we're unpacking the credit score cage, the number invented in 1989 that now controls where you live, what you drive, and sometimes whether you get hired, and why improving it often means staying in debt.